Hello again. So, a few years ago, I had written two articles on the beatitudes and reproductive technologies for the Society of St. Sebastian. And today I'm going to read a version of both of those. I've kind of combined them and made some updates. So, you will hear a lot of paper flipping. I apologize. I will be reading them. Um, yeah, and then my next video, I'm going to address the question about IUI versus IVF from a Roman Catholic perspective, Roman Catholic and Orthodox perspective. So, here we go. The disregard for innocent human life at its earliest stage, we tend to think of this in our society as applying to abortion, but this extends beyond abortion. The fertility industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry that profits off of the creation and destruction of embryonic human beings. So the IVF business has reached this point of being a multi-billion-dollar moneymaker because our society tends to focus on what we often substitute for God. So wealth, pleasure, power, and honor or vain self-esteem. And these are precisely what Jesus gave up on the cross while humbling himself and showing ultimate divine mercy for our sake. These negative beatitudes, as Bishop Robert Barron refers to them, he references St. Thomas Aquinas. So he calls these beatitudes negative ones. They're not negative, but they require us to reject something as opposed to gain something. You'll see. So they call us to reject worldly pursuit and not seek to substitute wealth, power, pleasure, and vain self-esteem for the positive beatitudes, which seek to find happiness only in the pursuit of Christ-like, self-sacrificial love. So when we pursue the negative beatitudes too severely, making them idols and seeking self-fulfillment at the cost of the lives of others, we are not reflecting the self-sacrificial mercy and love of God to our children. We must struggle harder as followers of Christ towards the perfection God intends for each of us. So, to apply the Beatitudes to the need to restrict the use of reproductive technologies, we must ponder the following questions. Is it truly merciful to intentionally create our children in laboratories, knowing that they will not all survive the process and many will be left behind in freezers? These children, who are meant to be begotten, not made, through the conjugal one-flesh act of holy matrimony, deserve more dignity than to have their lives treated as scientific experiments. Are we seeking the will of God when we put our desire to have children before all else in our lives? Or does our desire to have children become a God, making it harder to decipher what God's will truly is in our lives? When we use our wealth to manufacture families to our desire and use women's bodies as our own personal incubators through surrogacy, no matter the cost to the children, are we seeking righteousness? Do we often seek the approval of others when feeling ashamed that we are unable to have biological children? Where are we seeking our happiness? So the first positive beatitude on which to focus to strive to reach absolute perfection is, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy." God is mercy and love, and showing mercy and compassion allows us to be vessels of God's merciful love and receive his divine mercy ourselves. We will become more joyful and filled with life when participating in the divine life of mercy and love. The second beatitude, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God," tells us that we need to always strive to only desire one thing in our lives, and that is God's will. When we focus on anything other than God's will for our lives, like sinful intentions or self-seeking desires, while searching for meaning in our lives, we often end up disappointed. Similarly, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied," means that we should focus on God's will and strive to do that which is right or righteous every day. When hungering and thirsting after our own desires and anything other than righteousness, we will not be truly satisfied nor experience peace and joy. The final positive beatitude, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God," reminds us to live the truth with an attractive joy and peace. Excuse me. Entering every conflict fortified by the peace of God, which is a consequence of becoming a carrier of divine mercy. "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven," is a reminder to detach from material possessions, but also to be free of pride and vain imaginations, opinions, and the desires of one's own heart in order to properly hunger and thirst after righteousness. The second negative beatitude, blessed are they who mourn, for they shall be comforted, is not being addicted to pleasurable feelings, but rather setting aside the seeking of pleasurable feelings to focus on the will of God, and actually feeling mournful over the state of the world. St. John Climacus states that mourning is a golden spur in a soul which is stripped of all attachment and all ties, and filled with joy and hope as we move towards Christ-likeness. The third negative beatitude, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth, tells us not to pursue worldly power as an ultimate end, but to be gentle and kind and empty of earthly ambition and overcome evil by good. As being meek and unaddicted to worldly power, you can become a conduit of true divine power to the world. If we obtain power, we will know what to do with it if we are seeking the will of God. The last negative beatitude, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, seeks the honor of God instead of the honor of the world, for speaking the truth and doing good. Not seeking the approval of others makes room for God's divine mercy to flow through us, allowing us to become channels of grace and peacemaking. So, how can those striving to preserve the dignity of human life from the moment of fertilization use the Beatitudes to influence pro-life policy? On IVF